جاز و14 شوط مرة أخرى.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Former Prime Minister Saad Hariri blames Israel for the terrorist explosion which rocked Beirut's southern suburbs. Egypt's interim rulers issue a faster-than-expected timetable for elections to lift the country out of crisis. And the Syrian National Coalition offers a ceasefire to President Bashar al-Assad's Muslims during the holy month of Ramadan. A bloody trapped car has exploded at a parking lot near Hezbollah's religious center in Beirut's southern suburbs, causing casualties and extensive damage. The blast went off near the Islamic Cooperation Center in the area of Bir al-Abed. Health Minister Ali Hassan Khalil said 53 people were wounded, but 41 of them were discharged and the rest were being treated for non-serious injuries. Ambulances and fire engines raced to the area, and witnesses said casualties were rushed to the nearby Bahman al-Rasul al-Atham hospitals. People were seen running in the streets away from the site of the explosion, which set dozens of cars on fire. An army command statement said the military was probing the attack to find the perpetrators. Former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri has blamed Israel for the terrorist explosion, which rocked Beirut's southern suburbs and has caused the country of trying to provoke Sunni Shiite strife in Lebanon. Hariri said the blast should lead the Lebanese reach national consensus and help keeping Lebanon away from external conflicts. Hariri said people should avoid slipping into foreign wars, as it will only inflict further divisions in the country, place national stability at risk, and expose Lebanon to the conspiracies of the Israeli enemy. The former PM has urged an investigation into the blast and has called on political leaders to shoulder responsibility in addressing the country's deteriorating security situation. President Michel Sleiman has also condemned the explosions in Beirut's southern suburbs. The president said the incident was a dangerous return to the country's previous instability and urged Lebanese authorities to bring those responsible to justice. Sleiman also called for dialogue to reduce tension and urged politicians to dissociate from the Syrian crisis. He stressed the need for politicians to respect the security of the Lebanese citizens regardless of their political disagreements. For his part, Prime Minister Najib Mikati said the blast demonstrates the criminals are determined to carry on with their plan to destabilize Lebanon regardless of the area. He urged the Lebanese to unite in order to end the political and security deadlock in the country. Several other officials have denounced the attacks and called on the state to control the security situation in Lebanon. Prime Minister-designate Tamam Slam described the explosion as a heinous crime. Falange Party leader Amin Jmayel says he considered it a sign of danger and a threat to the country. Lebanese Forces leader Samir Jaja has demanded the judicial security agencies deal with the matter with complete seriousness in order to reveal the perpetrators as soon as possible. For his part, Progressive Socialist Party leader MP Walid Jumblat considered the attack as an assault on the national security. Defense Minister Fayez Ghusn said the Lebanese are stuck in the middle of regional conflicts and added these kinds of explosions only target its stability. The U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Maura Connelly, says she strongly condemns today's bombing and expressed her country's rejection for any violence in Lebanon. Connelly has called on all parties to exercise calm, constraint, and respect for the country's security and stability. The U.S. diplomat urged the Lebanese government to conduct a thorough investigation into the incident, renewing her country's commitment to a stable and independent Lebanon. A man has been injured after Hezbollah members opened fire in the air to disperse protesters who assaulted Interior Minister Marwan Shadbil after he inspected the site of today's blast. Shadbil was leaving the Bir al-Abed neighborhood along with Acting Internal Security Forces Chief Brigadier General Brahim Basbous and accompanying officers when angry residents began pelting him with stones. TV footage showed several men attacking Shadbil as Hezbollah members rushed to cover his head and take him out of the area. The minister earlier condemned the Bir al-Abed explosion and said it was an attempt to create Sunni Shiite strife. A military examining magistrate has demanded the death penalty for 37 suspects, including the municipal chief of the town of Arsel, over the killing of 2 soldiers last February. The request was made in the indictment issued by Judge Fadi Sawan. The judge issued search and investigation warrants against 16 unidentified suspects involved in the number of Captain Pierre Beshalani and Sergeant Ibrahim Zahraman. Sawan also issued arrest warrants against 53 people accused of murder, attempted murder, use of violence against the army, and the theft of weapons and ammunition. Pro- and anti-Mursi protesters gather in Cairo as Egypt's interim rulers issue a faster-than-expected timetable for elections to lift the country out of crisis. This comes hours after the Muslim Brotherhood called for nationwide protests after the army shot dead scores of people outside the elite Republican Guard's headquarters in Cairo. The interim administration expressed deep regret for those killed in violence on Monday, adding it had formed a judicial committee to investigate the events. Interim President Adli Mansour has released details of a timetable for parliamentary elections by 2014, after which a date will be announced for a presidential ballot. The country will have 5 months to amend the current draft constitution, suspended following Mohamed Morsi's removal last week, ratify it in a referendum, and then hold parliamentary elections. This is according to the text of the 33-article decree published online. The White House administration is concerned about the increased violence in Egypt and has not yet made up its mind as to whether or not to label the Egyptian military's ouster of President Mohamed Morsi as a coup. The decision will have a direct impact on the $1.3 billion in military aid and $250 million in economic aid to Egypt. Israel has urged Washington not to suspend its annual aid to Cairo, fearing negative impact on its security.
The United States remains deeply concerned by the increasing violence across Egypt and by Egypt's dangerous level of political polarization. We strongly condemn any violence, as well as any incitement to violence. We express our condolences to those who have been killed and their families and hope that those who are wounded or have been wounded recover quickly. We call on the military to use maximum restraint responding to protesters, just as we urge all those demonstrating to do so peacefully. We also condemn the explicit calls to violence made by the Muslim Brotherhood. This is a complex situation, and it is not in our interests to move unnecessarily quickly in making a determination like that, because we need to be mindful of our objective here, which is to assist the Egyptian people in their transition to democracy, and to remain faithful to our national security interests. So I think that it is fair to say that we will take the time necessary to review the situation, to observe the efforts by Egyptian authorities to forge a way forward, and then we'll consult with Congress and review our obligations under the law and mindful of our policy objectives. The Syrian National Coalition offers a ceasefire to President Bashar al-Assad's Muslims during the holy month of Ramadan to allow medical relief to conflict-hit areas. Jadba offered a truce to stop fighting in the besieged city of Homs, where Sunni Muslim rebels face a ferocious ground and air onslaught by Hezbollah-backed troops and militias loyal to President Bashar al-Assad. There's been no indication that the government is ready to accept such a truce. On another note, Jadba said the opposition will not go to a proposed peace conference in Geneva, sponsored by the United States and Russia, unless its military fortunes improve. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has appointed new leaders for the ruling Ba'ath Party. State television aired a video of Assad addressing a meeting it said was of members of the Ba'ath Party. Assad said the Ba'ath Party must develop to strengthen a culture of dialogue and deepen interaction with citizens to overcome the negative effect of the crisis. The reshuffle will be seen by some as an attempt by Assad to put a new face on the political organization, which has dominated Syrian politics for more than 4 decades. It comes at a time when the army says it has made gains on the battlefield. Syrian troops fought with rebels in Homs on Monday in a battle seen as crucial to the government's attempts to drive a wedge between opposition-held areas and establish links between the capital and Assad's coastal strongholds. Syria's ambassador to the United Nations, Bashar al-Jafari, has accused anti-government rebels of stockpiling chemical weapons in Syria. Jafari spoke to the journalists at the UN headquarters in New York. He said Syrian authorities made the discovery of the chemical weapons in the coastal towns of Banias.
Certainly, the Secretary General has been made aware of the press briefing by the permanent representative of Syria. He remains seriously concerned about all allegations on the use of chemical weapons in Syria. What is most urgent at this time is that the Syrian government allows access to the UN investigation mission without further delay and without any conditions. In this regard, the stated intent of the Syrian government to invite Dr. Selstrom and Ms. Angela Kane is a move in the right direction. We need to analyze the elements in the announcement by the Syrian permanent representative today. In the meantime, let me repeat the importance of having comprehensive access to these sites of allegations.
Coming up next, Muslims are preparing for the holy month of Ramadan across the Middle East and the world. Stay with us for more. Welcome back. We now move on with news around the world in brief. The trial of the captain of the Costa Concordia cruise ship, which capsized off Italy's coast last year, killing 32 people, was delayed just as it started because of the lawyers' strike. The giant Concordia flipped on its side outside the Tuscan port of Giglio in January of 2012 after it struck rocks during a maneuver that brought it too close to the shore. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff says her government has formally requested an explanation from the United States over reports its citizens' electronic communications have been under surveillance by U.S. spy agencies for at least a decade. Rousseff spoke firmly and also condemned what she called interferences as a violation of sovereignty and human rights, signaling out of right to privacy. A 39,000-year-old frozen woolly mammoth found in Russia has arrived in Japan. The 3-meter-long female mammoth named Yuka was discovered 3 years ago in Sakha Republic in Russia. She was brought to the port city of Yokohama for a public exhibition as Japan enters summer and crowds thicken with families. It is the first time the public gets a chance to gawk at a carcass whose body and fur are relatively intact. Muslims are preparing for the holy month of Ramadan across the Middle East and the world. In Yemen, traditional dates are sold from a roadside market stall in the capital Sana'a, and residents are preparing for the month-long fast by stocking up on treats. Syrian refugees in Tripoli, north of Lebanon, received humanitarian aid to help them through Ramadan. One aid distributor, donating gifts funded by the Qatari prince, said it wouldn't be the only help Syrians in Lebanon will receive to support their fasting. Some Syrian refugees in Lebanon are having their third Ramadan away from their homes. 1.5 billion Muslims globally are anticipating the beginning of the month-long fast. Markets across the Jordanian capital of Amman prepare to meet the increased demand needed to prepare the feasts, with which observant Muslims break the daily fast amid consumer concerns over high food prices. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now let me remind you of our headlines. Former Prime Minister Saad Hariri blames Israel for the terrorist explosion which rocked Beirut's southern suburbs. Egypt's interim rulers issue a faster-than-expected timetable for elections to lift the country out of crisis. And finally, the Syrian National Coalition offers a ceasefire to President Bashar al-Assad during the holy month of Ramadan. Those were your Tuesday headlines from Future Television, live from Beirut. We'll be back again after Eid, and on behalf of our team, I wish you all a very happy Ramadan. Have a good one.